Hello all, Gordon James McDowell here, standing in for JR, who has gone missing. Dum, dum, dum. Some say he was kidnapped at gunpoint. Others say he left for sunny California to go surfing, of all things. But one thing is certain, until JR returns, if JR returns, I get to use all his stuff. Let's take a look at his locker. Ooh, stuff. Shoes. Big ass shoes. JR's jacket. I miss you, JR. Surfing. I might lend some credence to the surfing story. A hat that tells us nothing. Power supply to a Dell laptop. If he's in California, he's not going to be getting a lot of work done. And this could be the very last footage we have of a living JR. The Don Tapscott event from February 26th. Let's take a look.
Hi all, welcome to IdeaWarz TV. JR here at a very special event. We're here at the Palliser Hotel in Calgary. Very excited. We're going to meet Don Tapscott, the author of Wikinomics. What was the inspiration behind Wikinomics?
Well, we did a $7 million research project on how the internet was changing new business models. I was inspired by that work to write Wikinomics because as the new web comes to fruition, this is combining with a social revolution of all these young kids online, which in turn is creating an economic revolution. And we wanted to communicate the results of some of this to a broader audience. This is not your daddy's internet today. Basically, the old web was based on HTML, and that was a standard for the presentation of information, which is why everybody talked about websites and eyeballs and stickiness and clicks and so on. The new web is based on XML and SOAP and UDDI and a new lingua franca for distributed computing. So basically, the web has become not a platform for presentation, it's a platform for programmability. It's becoming a giant global computer. This is the biggest change in the history of a corporation. And companies that figure it out, like Boeing and Procter & Gamble and Goldcorp, are the ones that are succeeding. And those that don't figure it out, well, they're starting to be the ones that fail. So the stakes are very high. The
CEO of Goldcorp, Rob McEwen, I think, he's the neighbor of Don Tapscott. That's how he knows the story.
Oh,
They're
really?
like neighbors.
I wonder if there's anything to do with him being in the book. I doubt it.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
Probably not.
No, definitely not.
It is a good story.
It is a good story. I think it's a pretty solid story.
I do too. High five on the solid.
I think the big realization for us last year was that, people would submit ideas and Cambridge House would consume them. So we were being the producers of the idea, and we really became a bottleneck. A lot of people want to work and realize in their own ideas that, around in November, December, we really started to get the hint that, we're holding people up here. Like, we're the bottleneck. We should get out of their way and find a way of letting everyone else realize their ideas. Their ability to self-organize and realize, like, what they need to be successful is just amazing, because we don't have all the answers. So we're more about enabling and letting them go.
Connecting other customers and to another client, basically.
It's not
like that? Or?
It's not a dating service, but it's not far off.
Yeah.
It's really just about connecting people. How do we connect people who can help someone like Chuck with his idea? You had an idea in the tournament. What was it?
It was your idea.
Was it your idea?
Yeah.
Oh, now we know who the brains are. Sean Wise is like the MC, and Don's probably going to go up and do his thing and talk, but there's nothing planned for no crazy Viking attack, or no one's going to go streaking or anything like that. There'll probably be like a Q&A session or something, and people so you should think of a good question for him. You should think of a really good question to hit him with, something tough, something to make him sweat. You could come up with the Apple example. Look, Steve Jobs is like a control freak, keeps everything private. The iPod doesn't party with anybody. I mean, it's a closed API you can't plug in. Should they be doing crowdsourcing? Like, are they taking the wrong approach? That'd be a good question. Get his view on that or something.
A lot of people say, and I get this, hey, Don, this is just another bubble. All this hype, Time Magazine, you're the person of the year and so on. You know something? That's wrong. In fact, the internet stocks are not even inflated at all. If you go back throughout human history, and a British economist has done this, Carlotta Perez, and she's looked at all these big innovations throughout history. You had the internal combustion, telephone, radio, and television, and so on. They all go through a similar process. What happens is you get some experimentation, then you get some excitement, then you get some investment, then you get some speculation, then you get a bubble. And then the bubble bursts and everybody gets cynical. And then you move into decades of long-term deployment where the real impact of the technology becomes understood on business models and on the economy. We had the bubble. Now we're into decades of long-term deployment, and we're just beginning to understand the impact. The impact is that the corporation is going through a huge change. And, you know, Cambrian House is an example of that. We've always created wealth through hierarchies. You report to somebody or somebody reports to you. Throughout the 20th century, we created value through this vertically integrated corporation. It was based on this model of a hierarchy. And don't get me wrong, hierarchies are not going to go away. They'll be around in my lifetime, for sure. But this industrial age corporation did everything from soup to nuts. 70 years ago, there was a Nobel Prize winning economist. His name was Ronald Coase, and he asked a deceptively simple question. He said, why does this firm exist? He said, if Adam Smith is right and the open market's the best mechanism to determine how goods and resources and information is allocated, why isn't everybody an independent contractor at every step along the way in production? Why do we all work for these big vertically integrated companies? And he said, the answer is, and he won a Nobel Prize for saying this, the answer is collaboration costs.
You won't take my question.
Now, he used the term transaction costs, but what he meant was the cost of collaborating. He defined the cost of search. This is 70 years ago. The cost of search, of finding all the right information and people and so on to do so. The cost of coordination, of getting them all to work together. The cost of contracting. If every little activity in the economy required a separate contract, this would be totally prohibitive. And he was right, and the big industrialists understood this. Henry Ford, within the boundaries of the Ford Motor Company, owned a power plant, a steel mill, a shipping company, a glass factory. Why? Because the costs of collaboration in an open market were way greater than the cost of doing things inside the boundaries of the corporation, where you had business processes and structures and reward systems.
Yeah, that's great, Don, but
Well, 15 years ago, I wrote this book called Paradigm Shift, and I said, whoa, just a sec, I think the boundaries of the corporation are becoming more porous.
Question.
Let's call it the extended enterprise, where companies reach out to business partners. Then along comes your daddy's internet.
Mr. Tapscott.
And we saw this happen further. Vertically integrated corporations unbundled into focused companies that work within business webs.
Mr. Tapscott, I have a question, sir.
Companies began to focus on what was really uniquely, things that they could do uniquely well. Now, people would say to me, oh, come on, Don, I mean, you're not going to outsource something that's strategic, even if you can't do it uniquely well. Well, my wife has a car. It's called a BMW X3. It's a little SUV. And it's not made by BMW. The car is made by Magna, a Canadian company. You got car companies that don't make cars. No computer companies make computers. Computer companies are made by companies, it's a whole industry called the EMS, Electronics Manufacturing and Services Company.
Sir?
The new Dell laptop,
Hello?
they go into this place in Taiwan, they look around, they
Hello?
select a bunch of laptops, and they say, we like this one, and that's the new Dell laptop. This, however, is ready for the next big step. The costs of collaboration are dropping so much that peers, and a bunch of you in this room are examples, can come together onto the web and you can co-innovate and co-create something like, say, software. Or like, say, an encyclopedia.
The full presentation goes on like that for over an hour. If you're interested in seeing it, visit CambrianHouse.com. Otherwise, until next week, may the best idea win. Unless your idea of a good time is going to California and surfing for a week, in which case you're lazy and you should come back and get back to work.
He's not lazy, he's having fun!
I want to go to California. Stop whining!